We're talking skill. Ari loves skill. The offensive skill players for Ohio State. We've talked about the quarterbacks. We've talked about the offensive line, receivers, running backs, tight ends. Ari, there's a lot of names at receiver. What's going to happen? Who's going to play? And how good do you think that overall group of guys in? We saw 6 guys play last year. What are they going to do this year?
I mean, I think that Zach Smith just inherently likes rotating guys. So that's definitely part of it. And what we saw on Student Appreciation Day on Saturday was that a lot of guys were repping with the first team. Now, that could be because Mike Thomas is out, and there's some spots that are open with Devin Smith and Evan Spencer, and they're trying people out. But I do think that that's just part of the way Ohio State is. Now, are we including H-back with a wide receiver?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so there's Bill. Hang tight over there, buddy. Okay, so they brought out Curtis Samuel to the H-back. They moved Jalen Marshall outside, but both of those are very experimental moves. I think they're trying to become versatile, and I think they're trying to find a way to make everything work. And that's a very hard thing to do when you have too much talent, which is, what I wrote about already with how everything kind of is coming together from a recruiting standpoint. Everybody talks about the quarterback position battle. The wide receivers are as big of a cluster as the other. So,
Good cluster, of
course, everything that you would want. So I can envision a world where Jalen Marshall stays outside with Mike Thomas and Noah Brown, and then Curtis Samuel plays the H, Ezekiel Elliott, and one of the quarterbacks. That's a lot of talent on the field. But, right now I think their best players are Michael Thomas, Jalen Marshall, and, the funny thing is we've even forgotten about Dontre Wilson. I mean, this was a guy that was supposed to be the guy in the offense for 3 years here, and he's not even practicing either. So a lot of names to kind of figure out, and it's just going to be a really hard thing for them to do. I think the only solution is to find their best 4 guys, lean on them, and then rotate the other spots.
So really when we're thinking about it, I think at H-back, the H-back hybrid slot receiver, we have Jalen Marshall, Curtis Samuel, Dontre Wilson capable of playing that spot. At the outside receiver spots, we're talking about Mike Thomas and Corey Smith, who both played last year. Yeah. Young guys like Johnny Dixon and Noah Brown in that mix. And then really young guys coming along at H or receiver like Paris Campbell, Terry McLaurin. There's just, James Clark is another injured guy who's still in there, but it does seem like they're going to find multiple playmakers from that group, right? I'm curious to see who the deep threat is. Jalen Marshall talked about that he thinks he could do that along with Mike Thomas, but you think they're going to have good playmakers on the field at that spot no matter what they do.
Here's what I think. I think Mike Thomas is going to be the biggest big play guy. I think Jalen Marshall is going to be the consistent get the ball in this guy's hands, whether it's 17-yard crossing route or a jet sweep or whatever. And then I think that the H-back this year, whether it's Dontre or Curtis Samuel, are going to be somebody that kind of stretches the field and, maybe helps Ohio State's offense become more versatile. But I do think that the 2 biggest playmakers from the outside are definitely going to be Jalen and Michael Thomas.
We don't want to forget about the tight ends in this. Jeff Hireman is gone. Nick Vannett, I think, is a really good player. I think he and Jeff Hireman are so similar. Jeff Hireman just got a little bit ahead of him when they came in the same recruiting class. Nick Vannett redshirted. Now he's back as a 5th-year senior. I think this is a year for him to really make some plays. Marcus Baugh, we saw make a catch on Saturday. And then running back, Bill, it's like the guy's hurt. He's not out there. But Ezekiel Elliott took the nation by storm. Do you think we're going to see that possibly from Ezekiel Elliott game after game, that kind of production? I'm not asking if he's going to run for 275 yards every game, but how dominant could this rushing attack be?
I think it could be pretty dominant. My thing with the rushing attack and Ezekiel Elliott, I know he's been talked about as a Heisman Trophy favorite since the season ended last year. I just don't think they're in a position where he's going to have to carry the ball enough to be a Heisman Trophy contender. They're going to – we talked about all the playmakers. All those guys want to get touches. They're going to want to spread the ball around. The way the schedule sets up, and I don't want to get into breaking down the schedule, but it's not like Elliott has to carry the ball 40 times a game for Ohio State to be successful. He can carry it 15 times a game and rush for 110 yards, and that'll be plenty enough for Ohio State to win, but it's not plenty enough for him to win a Heisman Trophy. And they talked about Briante Dunn, a guy who they like what he's done this spring. Maybe he might take some carries just to take some of the pressure off Elliott. Mike Weber, a freshman coming in, is a guy they might want to get some touches early on, too, to get him acclimated, because he's the guy who's going to replace Ezekiel Elliott when he inevitably goes to the draft next year. So, the rushing attack is good. It's probably one of the best in the country, maybe the best in the country. I'm not trying to take anything away from Elliott or what they can do in the running game. I just don't think it's going to be a scenario where they have to pound the ball and pound the ball and pound the ball.
Let's not forget, too, that right now, as it stands, Jalen Marshall is this team's best H-back. And if they do see the development that they need to see to feel comfortable at wide receiver, they could still move him back to that position. He was very effective there, which would bump Curtis Samuel back into the backfield. Right now, it's interesting this spring because Briante Dunn is taking all the 1 reps, and I'm not necessarily sure that's going to, transfer over into the fall. So, Ezekiel Elliott has certainly had grown into one of the best running backs in the country, but like Bill said, it might be hard to envision him maybe rushing the same type of way week in and week out the way he did in the playoff, especially because the quarterback's going to be more experienced now too.
I think this all brings up an interesting point in that everything about this team, especially at the national level, has been talking about the quarterbacks and what's going to happen. And obviously it's fascinating. But really, the number one job of that quarterback, whoever it is, and no matter who it is, he's going to be good, is to facilitate all this other stuff. So I don't really mean this, but you could almost make the point that whoever wins the quarterback job, it's not that important. And I've written about this. I think what's so interesting about the quarterback battle is that what are the losers going to do? What are the guys who don't play? How are they going to react? What are people going to think? But the guy who is going to play is going to be good because he has been good already. He's going to have a running back. He's going to have an offensive line, and he's going to have a bunch of people to throw to.
It doesn't matter who wins the starting quarterback job. Ohio State doesn't play anybody that can beat them until maybe the last 2 weeks of the season.
So let's just go ahead and say that in April before the spring game. Anyway, a lot to talk about with this offense. It was a really good offense by the end of last season, and I think a lot of people think it's going to be really good again. So, Ari Wasserman, Bill Landis, I'm Doug Lesmerises. Spring game, Saturday, Ohio Stadium, 1:30 p.m. We'll be there covering it. Thanks for watching and for reading here at cleveland.com.